Sometimes love doesn't arrive in candlelit rooms or carefully planned moments. It shows up on the open road, where engines roar and silence stretches for miles. This is the story of two women who thought they were just sharing a ride but ended up discovering a connection that neither could ignore. Every bump in the highway, every stop along the way, pulled them closer to a truth they weren't ready to face but couldn't deny. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and turn on notifications. That way, you'll never miss the emotional, breathtaking stories we bring to life. The diesel engine rumbled beneath us, steady and low, like a heartbeat stretched across endless miles of asphalt. I sat in the passenger seat of that old freight truck, my backpack tucked between my legs, trying to look relaxed even though my pulse betrayed me. Her name was Jordan, 33, tall, confident, with sharp eyes that stayed focused on the road ahead. She was everything the truck seemed to represent, strong, worn, and unbothered by the weight it carried. I, on the other hand, felt like excess baggage. "First time hitching a ride in a rig like this?" she asked without glancing at me. I swallowed. "Yeah." "Bus tickets were sold out, and, well, you were the only one willing to stop." Her mouth curved in a half-smile. "Guess that makes me your hero then." I laughed awkwardly, staring out the window at the blur of pine trees. The cab smelled faintly of leather, gasoline, and something warmer, coffee maybe or her. Every now and then, her arm brushed the gearshift, and I caught myself watching the way her fingers curled around it, steady and assured. The road stretched on, miles disappearing into dusky skies. Conversation came slowly, in pieces, like bricks laid between us. I told her I was 27, a teacher between jobs, trying to make my way back home to Portland after a failed relationship in Spokane. She told me she had been driving trucks since her 20s, finding comfort in the rhythm of the road, in the solitude no one else seemed to understand. "Don't you get lonely?" I asked. She shrugged, eyes still on the horizon. "Sometimes. But it beats feeling stuck. Out here, I can leave things behind." Her words hit me harder than I expected. I, too, wanted to leave things behind. Memories of arguments, the bitter silence of a breakup, the nagging thought that maybe I had never been enough. Sitting next to Jordan, I felt for the first time in weeks that maybe I could breathe again. The sun dipped low, staining the sky orange and pink. Jordan rolled down her window, letting the cool air whip around us. My hair flew across my face, and she chuckled, reaching over without warning to tuck a strand behind my ear. The touch was brief, but it left a trail of fire across my skin. I turned quickly toward the window, praying she hadn't noticed the blush creeping across my cheeks. We stopped at a small truck stop just off the highway. Neon lights buzzed overhead, reflecting off rain-speckled asphalt. Inside, the diner was nearly empty, just a waitress with tired eyes and a jukebox playing some old country ballad. Jordan ordered a black coffee. I asked for tea. As we waited, she leaned back in the booth, studying me. "So," she said, "why'd you really leave Spokane?" I hesitated. My fingers traced circles on the tabletop. "Because I fell for someone who didn't fall for me the same way. Because I wanted her to choose me, and she didn't." Jordan's eyes softened. "That's rough." "It happens." I tried to sound nonchalant, but my voice cracked at the edges. She didn't press further, just nodded. "You'll find better. The road's funny that way, it takes you places you don't expect." Her words lingered long after we finished our meal. Back in the truck, silence settled between us again, but it wasn't heavy. It was the kind of silence that held possibilities, the kind that felt alive. Night fell, the highway stretching endlessly beneath the glow of headlights. I drifted in and out of half-sleep, lulled by the hum of the engine. At some point, I woke to find Jordan's jacket draped over me, the scent of her skin faint on the collar. She must have done it while I slept. My chest tightened with something I couldn't name. Around midnight, the rain began. Sheets of water slammed against the windshield, wipers working furiously. Jordan slowed, her focus sharp, knuckles tight on the wheel. The cab felt smaller, wrapped in darkness and storm. "Storm's worse than they predicted," she muttered. "Might need to pull over soon." Lightning flashed, illuminating her face in stark relief, determined, calm, and yet something flickered in her expression when she glanced at me. A question, unspoken. We finally pulled into a narrow rest area surrounded by trees, the rain hammering on the roof of the cab. Jordan killed the engine, and silence crashed in, broken only by the storm. "Well," she said, stretching her arms, "looks like we're stuck here for the night." I shifted nervously, glancing at the narrow sleeper berth behind us. "There's only one bed." Her lips curved into that half-smile again. "Don't worry. I've shared worse spaces with drivers bigger than you. You'll live." The words were casual, but the air between us wasn't. My pulse quickened. The storm outside seemed to mirror the storm in me. Loud, unstoppable, impossible to ignore. I climbed into the back, lying stiffly against the wall, trying to take up as little space as possible. Jordan slid in beside me, her presence filling the small berth. Her shoulder brushed mine, warm and steady, and I felt every nerve in my body awaken. In the dark, with rain pounding around us, I heard her voice, low and close. "Ava, you ever think about how sometimes the road puts two people in the same place at the same time for a reason?" My breath caught. I turned my head slightly toward her, though I couldn't see her face. "Are you saying this isn't just coincidence?" The silence stretched, thick and fragile, as if the next words might shatter everything. Then I felt it, her hand, brushing against mine, hesitating, waiting. And before I could decide whether to pull away or hold on, the storm outside cracked with thunder, shaking the whole truck. The thunder rattled the truck, but it was nothing compared to the noise inside my chest. Jordan's hand hovered near mine, close enough that I could feel the heat of her skin. It was such a small thing, but in the darkness it carried the weight of something dangerous, something I wasn't sure I was ready for. I pulled in a shaky breath. "Do you always get this philosophical during storms?" She chuckled softly, her voice rumbling like the engine had hours before. "Maybe. Storms make me think about how fragile we are, how easy it is to get lost if you don't have someone keeping you steady." Her words pressed against something inside me I'd been trying to keep sealed. I wanted to ask if she was offering to be that steady place. Instead, I shifted slightly, enough that our hands brushed again. This time, neither of us pulled away. The rain kept hammering down, but the cab felt oddly safe, like a cocoon cut off from the world. My heart still raced, though, because safety wasn't the same as certainty. "Tell me something," she said after a long silence. "What's the worst thing you've ever left behind?" The question caught me off guard. My throat tightened. A version of myself, I admitted. One that thought love meant giving everything even when nothing came back. Her breathing slowed, thoughtful. "That's not weakness, Ava. That's strength. But strength can break you if you don't protect it." I turned my head, trying to see her face in the dark. "And what about you? What have you left behind?" She let out a long breath. "Too much road. Too many people who never understood why I couldn't stay. A father who thought driving was throwing my life away. A woman I once thought was forever." Her voice faltered slightly on that last word, and I felt it like a stone in my chest. I wanted to ask more, but she shifted, her shoulder brushing mine. "But I don't regret choosing this life. The road's lonely, yeah, but at least it's honest. Out here, you know exactly where you stand." I lay there in silence, my body buzzing with questions and feelings I didn't have the courage to voice. The storm eventually softened into a drizzle, and the rhythm of the rain lulled me into a restless sleep. When I woke, pale light filtered through the windshield. Jordan was already up, pulling on her jacket. Her hair was tied back messily, her eyes tired but alert. "Morning," she said. "I didn't want to wake you." I sat up quickly, embarrassed by the way my heart jumped just at the sight of her. "Morning. Did the storm let up?" "Yeah. Roads should be clear. We've got about 4 more hours before Portland." We hit the road again, the cab filled with the hum of the engine and the faint crackle of country music on the radio. I found myself stealing glances at her profile, the way her hands moved with confidence, the slight crease in her brow when she concentrated. She caught me once, smirking as if she knew exactly what I was doing. "Careful," she teased. "Keep looking at me like that, and I'll start charging extra for the ride." I rolled my eyes, though my cheeks burned. Guess I'll pay in bad violin playing then. That made her laugh, and the sound filled me with something I couldn't name. We stopped for fuel at a truck plaza outside Olympia. While Jordan handled the pump, I went inside to grab coffee and snacks. The cashier, a young guy with bleached hair, gave me a once-over. "That your rig out there?" he asked. "Not mine," I said. "I'm just catching a ride." His grin turned sly. "With the tall woman? Lucky. She's kind of a legend around here. People talk about her." My pulse quickened. "What do they say?" He shrugged. "That she doesn't let anyone close. That she's married to the road. You'll figure it out." I left quickly, unsettled. When I handed Jordan her coffee, I studied her face for any cracks in her armor, any signs of the stories he'd hinted at. But she only thanked me and kept driving, her focus on the highway. Hours later, the green signs for Portland finally appeared. Relief and dread tangled inside me. This was supposed to be the end of the ride, the end of the story. But I didn't want it to be. As we pulled into the city, she asked quietly, "Where should I drop you?" I hesitated. "Downtown. Near Powell's." She nodded, and silence stretched between us again, heavier this time. When she finally parked near the bookstore, I opened the door slowly, my backpack suddenly too light, as if it carried nothing compared to the weight in my chest. "Thanks," I said, my voice unsteady. "For the ride. For everything." Her eyes lingered on me, unreadable. "Take care of yourself, Ava." I stepped out, the city noise swallowing me, the smell of exhaust and wet pavement filling my lungs. She pulled away, the truck's roar fading down the street. I stood frozen, watching her taillights disappear. My chest ached like I'd left something behind that I couldn't afford to lose. And then I saw it. On the passenger seat, through the windshield just before she turned the corner, my violin case sat forgotten. For a few stunned seconds, I just stood there in the drizzle, watching the taillights vanish into the traffic. My stomach twisted. My violin case, my last link to everything I'd fought to carry with me, was gone. I had left it in Jordan's truck. I could have let it go, told myself it was just an object, that I'd find a way to replace it. But the truth was harsher. I didn't want to let go of her. That case was more than an accident. It was an excuse, maybe the only one I'd get, to see her again. I started running. My boots slapped against the wet pavement as I wove through streets, hoping for a glimpse of that massive rig. Horns blared, tires hissed in puddles, but I didn't stop. Finally, 2 blocks away, I spotted her truck idling at a red light. Relief and adrenaline surged through me. I waved wildly, sprinting toward her. "Jordan!" I shouted. Her head turned, her eyes widening in shock as she spotted me in the side mirror. She leaned over, rolling down the passenger window. "Ava? What the hell?" "You have my violin." I gasped, breathless, pointing. She glanced at the case on the seat beside her, then back at me. The light turned green, cars honking behind her. "Get in," she called. I scrambled up the side of the truck, my hands slippery with rain, and collapsed into the passenger seat just as she shifted gears and rolled forward. My lungs burned, but relief washed over me. "You're insane," she muttered, shaking her head. But there was laughter in her voice and maybe something else. "Maybe," I admitted, brushing wet hair from my face. "But you weren't really going to just drive off with my life in the passenger seat, were you?" Her lips twitched. Guess I wasn't thinking straight. The truck roared onto the freeway again, carrying us away from downtown. I realized then I hadn't told her where I actually needed to go. Maybe I hadn't wanted to. "So, violin, huh?" she asked, tapping the case lightly. I nodded, embarrassed. "I'm not very good yet. I only started a year ago. But it's the first thing I've done for myself in a long time." Her expression softened. "Then you don't leave it behind." "Not ever." Her words sank into me. It wasn't just about the violin. I felt like she was telling me not to leave myself behind again, not to hand pieces of who I was to people who didn't value them. We drove in silence for a while, the hum of the engine filling the space. My pulse still raced from running, but now it raced for a different reason. Every time her hand moved on the gearshift, I thought about how close it had been to mine the night before. Finally, I asked the question that had been chewing at me since the cashier's words at the plaza. Is it true what people say? That you don't let anyone close? Her jaw tightened. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she switched lanes, eyes locked on the road. People talk because they don't understand. I don't fit into their neat little boxes. Yeah, I keep my distance. It's easier that way. Easier than what? Her voice dropped lower. Easier than losing someone again. Her honesty knocked the air from my chest. I wanted to reach for her, to bridge the distance she'd built around herself, but the vulnerability in her voice stopped me. I realized then that the wall she kept wasn't coldness, it was fear. As the sky darkened again, we pulled into a rest area near the Columbia River Gorge. The view was breathtaking, jagged cliffs, mist curling above the water, the last of the daylight fading into violet shadows. Jordan parked the truck, cutting the engine. Why here? I asked quietly. She shrugged. Sometimes you need to stop somewhere beautiful. Reminds you there's more to life than asphalt and deadlines. We climbed down from the cab and stood near the edge of the lookout, the wind sharp against our faces. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Then Jordan's hand brushed against mine, tentative. I froze, my heart pounding. She didn't pull away this time. Instead, her fingers slid into mine, slow and deliberate. I don't do this, she said, her voice barely audible over the wind. I don't let people in. But with you, she trailed off, shaking her head as if words failed her. I squeezed her hand, courage sparking inside me. Maybe that's because this isn't just the road putting us together. Maybe it's because you were meant to let me in. Her eyes met mine, stormy and uncertain. For a moment, I thought she might kiss me right there, under the fading light. My pulse soared with the possibility. But then headlights swept across the parking area, and a black SUV pulled in fast, its tires crunching against gravel. Two men stepped out, scanning the trucks. One of them pointed toward Jordan's rig. Her grip on my hand tightened. Damn it, she muttered. What is it? I whispered. They're from a company I used to drive for. Let's just say I didn't leave on good terms. The men started walking toward us, their voices low but tense. I could feel the danger radiating from them, even from a distance. Jordan's jaw set, her other hand curling into a fist. Stay behind me, Ava. My heart slammed against my ribs. The night had been filled with emotions I wasn't ready for, but now it carried something else, fear. As the men closed in, I realized this wasn't just about the past Jordan had left behind. It was about whether I was willing to stand beside her, no matter what it cost.